Greetings, Fire Chargers, Darkblade here, and tomorrow is my birthday. So today, as I said yesterday, I will be reacting to a video by the U.S. National Archives. This is Know Your Enemy Japan, and it was uploaded to YouTube on July 29, 2016. It was originally made during World War II, and it was planned to be shown to U.S. soldiers to presumably try to get them to understand Japan and the significance of the Pacific Theater, but ended up not doing that as the war had already ended by the time that they were planning to show the soldiers this film. It didn't get publicly released until much later. At least I think so. Let me just go somewhere else to check that. By the way, there will be a hard limit. This video ends once it reaches 35 minutes in length. Know your Your Enemy in Japan is 1945. However, the film never realized its full. It was commissioned by the U.S. War Department, sought to educate American soldiers about Japan, its history, its people, society history, and its totalitarian militaristic government. However, the film never realized its full purpose because its completion was delayed by disputes between Hollywood and Washington, and the abrupt end of the Pacific War soon after the film's release in 1945. The film's first public screening was in 1977 as part of a PBS special. Anyway, let's start this reaction. Make sure the volume is all the way up, or high enough up. 111 of. It said, this film has been compiled from authentic newsreel official United Nations and captured enemy film. Free use has been made of certain Japanese motion pictures with historical backgrounds. When necessary for purposes of clarity, a few reenactments have been made under War Department supervision. Disclaimer. There might be a few instances of a not-so-savory word being used for Japanese people in this film, but from where I last got to in this video, which is about halfway through, I only heard it twice if I remember correctly. Static sounds are War Department orientation film, educational information. Produced by Army Pictorial Service Signal Corps. In the last 100 years, a small number of Japanese have come to the United States. Under our law, their children born in this country are citizens. They have been educated in our schools and speak our language, and a great many of them share our love of freedom and our willingness to die for it. In Europe, a regiment formed of those Americans of Japanese descent called Nisei, which means second generation, distinguished itself for gallantry against the Nazis. The story of these brave men who, however much they resemble our enemies in physical appearance, have proved their right to American citizenship on the battlefields in Europe has been told in other information films. The story symbolizes their loyal contribution of Americans of Japanese descent in all theaters of war. So it shows that the purpose of this film is about the enemy soldiers that the U.S. is fighting, not about Japanese people as an ethnic group. The purpose of this film is not to attack them, By the way, I will not be saying that unsavory word myself. This film tells the story of in Japan, to whom the words liberty and freedom are still without meaning. Know Your Enemy, Japan, the official title. By the way, if you want, I'll also react to some of these. Here is Germany, and Know Your Ally, Britain, or Why We Fight the Battle of China, because I am half Chinese myself. By the way, there might be a part 2 to this. These are the Chinese characters that are and Ben that are used to write the word for Japan. Oh, and by the way, there is another unsavory word for Japanese people used in this newspaper that's being shown on screen, and that comes from one of the Japanese words for Japan. There's a picture of a soldier and a bound and blindfolded prisoner who is about to be unalived. The sword is our steel Bible, and the quote is from General. That's the name. 30 minutes left. General saw something, and this looks like it's going to be an O, and this is an A. Araki. By the way, if anyone knows the translation of the sounds that are being said in the background, feel free to let me know. They're cutting this bundle of what looks like hay. And also cutting that stalk with the sword. And that stalk. With some firearms. And one person was like balancing a stick on his forehead. I don't know what that is supposed to symbolize. Are these lanterns or something? Let me try to read those characters back. I don't know what these persons are. So, by the way, I will be using Chinese pronunciations when I can. I think this might be something like ya, no. This looks like mutapang and gong, so probably song. And this looks like cao, which means grass. And these two, that line I just can't read. I don't know what that is. Oh, a train. And people crowding out of the train, and now they're crowding into a train. And now they're dancing with sticks. More trains and telephone or telegraph cables. Anyone know what a typewriter. And bikes and cars right next to each other. That's what a lot of old cars look like. This is like a streetcar or bus. I've seen those kind of sticks in fiction before, but don't know what they're called. And I paused it well after the sticks have already left the screen. Are those crutches?
We shall never completely understand the Japanese mind, but then they don't understand ours either. Otherwise, there would never have been a Pearl Harbor. But we must try to understand Japan because we have become locked in the closest of all relationships, war.
Kind of ironic that being a wartime enemy is described as the closest of all relationships. No, we're in the closest of all relationships, trying to unalive each other.
Whether we like it or not, we and the Japanese are going to be at very close range for a very long time. So let's see what kind of people these Japanese really are, what they believe in, what they want, and how they get it. And if this tale begins to get a little fantastic, bear with us. We're dealing with the fantastic people.
So
First, let's examine a typical Japanese soldier.
Okay.
His average height is 5 feet 3 inches. His average weight, 117 pounds. He and his brother soldiers are as much alike as photographic prints off the same negative. His pay is 10 yen, or about $2.36 a month.
That would probably be wondrous to some people. Well, nowadays, if 10 yen exchanged to $2.30 or $2.36 or whatever it is he just said, currently 1 yen is less than a cent when converted to American dollars, which would make 10 yen not even enough to get a pack of ramen from the store. Those things now cost like a quarter.
His personal equipment is simple but practical. Fully supplied with ammunition, the load he carries weighs about 60 pounds, more than half his weight. His uniform is ill-fitting, his appearance unsoldierly, even comic according to Western standards. At drill, he may lack precision. But he is hard. He is able. He knows his job.
Like one person who was holding a platform while others were running across it.
His endurance is phenomenal. He
They're
just
like
as soon go over a
hauling
mountain
wheels.
as around it. He lives on rice. Rice and fish, or occasionally rice and meat, but often on rice alone.
Yeah, rice is a big crop in East Asia.
And he's proud of it. He is prouder still of the fact that to be a soldier is the highest human achievement in Japan. He has been trained to be a soldier almost from birth, and into his tough little mind has been drilled and hammered the fanatical belief that Japanese are descendants of gods and destined to rule the earth and all who live on it. To this end, treachery, brutality, rape, and torture are all justified if used against non-Japanese.
Some scenes are a bit loud.
In combat, his single aim is to close with the enemy in hand-to-hand fighting. He believes that in the attack itself there is some mystic virtue by which greater numbers bearing superior weapons can be vanquished.
Wait, what did that say?
Hand-to-hand fighting. He believes that in the attack itself there is some mystic virtue by which greater numbers bearing superior weapons can be vanquished.
You're like, oh, these people they're more than us and they have better arms than us. But we can win. But we'll win. That's what this video has just said. And these people are like, huzzah, crying out.
In his mind, there is usually no question of choice between death and surrender. To him, death in battle is the attainment of an ideal. Where his flag leads, he follows, in a blind emotional rush. For his flag not only represents his country, it is also the image of his God of gods. His flag is the rising sun, and the rising sun is the symbol of the emperor. To the Japanese, their emperor is the most holy of holies, their visible God. He is also their political ruler, the natural and supernatural. Religion and politics all done up in a one-man package. Entrust to one man.
Historically, a lot of countries were like that.
And the powers of the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, the Premier of Soviet Russia. Add to them the powers of the Pope.
Well, Stalin had a lot of his power on his own. So,
the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, then top it all with the divine authority of our own Son of God. And you will begin to understand what Hirohito means to the Japanese, why they call him the God Emperor. For to the Japanese, Hirohito is a direct descendant of the sun. And what is so high, so brilliant, and so mighty as the sun? Accordingly...
by the way, the term for the Japanese emperor, I will type it up. I know what it is. And since I do not have a Japanese keyboard active here, Samsung is limiting me to 4 keyboards at a time. I will type in the corresponding Chinese characters because I have a Chinese keyboard. So in Chinese, this set of characters is pronounced Tianhuang. Tianhuang. That second tone has always been my hardest. And it's used to refer to emperors. In Japanese, this is pronounced Tenno. And it's used to refer to emperors. The Emperor of Japan. Emperors of other countries are called Gote. And Tian means heaven or the sky, and Huang means emperor. Let me unpause this.
The sun. Accordingly, no one can stand above or look down upon the emperor. When he passes...
Is that actually how it was?
The streets, all windows above the first floor must be tightly shuttered.
Did that actually happen? Someone let me know in the comments.
The train to Tokyo from anywhere in Japan is the up train to Tokyo because the emperor lives there. Nor can the emperor be imitated in any way. Only his automobile may be maroon colored.
I think the first one, the previous couple ones, if true, they were like, I think there is no being above the emperor or looking down upon the emperor. And by looking down, I mean looking down upon in a literal sense.
Not even his tailor may touch the person of the emperor, for who would lay hands upon the sun? If you are Japanese, it actually hurts your eyes to look at Hirohito, just as it hurts your eyes to look at the blazing sun.
These
Nor would
people are
anyone dream of handling his uncovered picture.
and cover their
When
eyes.
Hirohito's face appeared on the front cover of an American magazine, the Japanese government filed an official protest with the American State Department. Whatever takes place in Japan, it is he, the God Emperor, that causes it. From him all things emanate, and in him all things subsist. He makes the Japanese rice grow. He makes Japanese soldiers conquer the world. In his name, they bring to other people justice, enlightenment, truth, co-prosperity, and peace.
These are presumably images of life or absence of life in the places that were occupied by Japan during World War II and in the previous few years. Because Japan has been militarily active in the area of East Asia before 1939 broke out. About 15 minutes left in the video, or less. This is more stuff about the Emperor. The background music playing right there is Kimi ga yo, which is still the national anthem of Japan. It was composed a very long time ago, like several hundred years.
1940 was a holy year in Japan, for the nation celebrated the 2600th anniversary of its founding by the first God Emperor, Jimmu.
The traditional founding date for Japan is February 11th, 660 BC. So 1940 would be 2600 years later. That is, if you forget the fact that there is no year zero. Then again, in a lot of ancient countings, there also was no zero. So 660 BC would be counted as year 1. And the 600 BC is year 61. And the 1940 is still year 2600. If you can hear that, please provide translations in the comments. I'll rewind it so you can still hear the part that played under me talking.
If you are Japanese, you believe that Jimmu was the grandson of Prince Ninigi, who himself was the grandson of the sun goddess, Amaterasu Omikami. And she, the sun herself, said to Prince Ninigi, "Go down and rule over the luxuriant land of reed plains, which your posterity is to govern as monarchs."
I don't know what source that quotation is from.
Whereon Ninigi descended from heaven to the land of reed plains and built a palace, and took to wife the daughter of a mountain deity, and she bore Ninigi a son. And Ninigi's son in turn took to wife the daughter of the god of the sea, and they too had a son, whom they named Jimmu. Exactly 2600 years ago, Jimmu landed at Yamato, and proclaimed himself emperor over all the islands, saying, "Let us extend our capital until it covers the 8 corners of the world under one roof." And in this way, the Japanese Empire was created.
2 minutes left.
Hirohito is the 128th direct descendant of the sun goddess. And since from the beginning the empire...
That would presumably mean 128th generation descendants. Okay, Google. 125th Emperor of Japan.
Akihito. According to Wikipedia, Akihito is a member of the Imperial House
Okay,
of Japan,
Google.
who reigned as the 125th Emperor of Japan.
Okay, Google. 124th Emperor of Japan.
Hirohito. On the website artsandculture.google.com, they say, Emperor Showa, better known in English by his personal name Hirohito, was the 124th Emperor of Japan, ruling over the Empire of Japan from 1926 until 1947, after which he was Emperor of the State of Japan until his death in 1989.
So, like, the first emperor would be the 5th generation descendants of Amaterasu. By the way, the emperor was never referred to like emperor with a certain name during his reign in Japan. He was just simply, during his reign, he was just called His Majesty the Emperor. And then there was also an era name associated with his reign in the time that he was emperor. And then eventually he would be called Emperor plus that era name, so in this case, Emperor Showa, but that kind of stuff didn't happen until after the emperor died. I I just remembered. My limit was actually 35 minutes and not 25 minutes. Sorry, we still have another 10.
Their flesh with mortal flesh. It follows that all Japanese are cousins in divinity. The soldier and the wrestler. The wrestler and the priest. The woman in the rice fields. The factory worker. The geisha girl. The businessman. The diplomat. The fisherman off California. All are members of one family, whose blood is superior to the blood of any other race on earth, because it is mixed with the liquid sunshine of the gods. And what's more, they believe it.
More like Huzzah cries.
And being of divine origin, all their acts fall into the divine pattern called the Way of the Gods, or Shinto. Which brings us to the national religion of Japan. Shintoism.
It was like using that giant stick, which looks like a battering ram, to sound a gong, even though I didn't actually see a gong in the frame. Wait, I want to see the gong.
Which brings us to the national religion of Japan.
So it just stopped. The battering ram just stops after hitting like this black arch. So that's what's supposed to be the gong. Oh wait, the black arch is just a shadow. So there was a gong like thing there. Oh, more Chinese characters that I want to translate. So this character in Chinese, this is pronounced Da, which means big, and this straight line, horizontal line, is E, which is just the number 1. There are 8 minutes left. And someone chopping wood. And using a hammer in a barrel. I don't know why, or even what's in that barrel. It was like waving a palm branch over.
Now, Shintoism will not be easy to understand, but since it is the heart, brain, and soul of the nation and dictates all Japanese actions for the living and for the dead, it is important that we try to understand it. According to Shinto, the population of Japan is one son of heaven, the emperor, 9 million minor gods, 75 million living people, and billions upon billions of ghosts, the spirits of all Japanese who have died in the past.
So, the video is like saying with Shinto, like the beginning of the video said about Japan itself. Oh, we can't fully understand and capture this, but we have to at least try, because we're currently engaged in war against them.
These spirits stand watch over all Japan.
So we have to at least try to get a grasp of what they are.
The battle and serenely float around in every Japanese house where guests are frequently introduced to them. They are so near, the living merely have to clap their hands to call their attention. They are fed choice food, guests are frequently introduced to them.
People about sitting so like that, with like on top of their feet, with their legs folded vertically. Anyway, does anyone know what this thing is? Because I also saw it in standing in front of Mao Zedong in the famous picture of the proclamation of the People's Republic of China.
Living merely have to clap their hands to call their attention. They are fed choice food and incense is burned for them. Each living Japanese is merely a link in this endless chain of ghosts. He is identical with them except for the unimportant fact that he breathes and can be seen. Each living Japanese knows he is constantly surrounded by these spirits who guard him and watch over him to see that he obeys the emperor and follows the way of the gods.
In specific Shinto
To watch over
that.
special Japanese activities, there is a host of minor gods. The volcano is a god. The lightning. There is a god of the silkworm, the god of the night wind. These pearl divers have a god, and annually they hold a ceremony for him. These farmers have a rice god to whom they offer prayers for a good harvest.
I'm guessing that might be Inari, but I am not actually sure at all. A scarecrow.
These scarecrows are all gods of one kind or another. There are over 100,000 Shinto shrines.
And there was like a shrine gate. Cancel.
These scarecrows are all gods of one kind or another.
Is it like waving a
There are
branch in
over
front?
100,000.
These shrine gates are important, and they have their own special name for this type of gate.
These local gods and spirits are worshipped.
More gongs and battering
For the
rams.
living Japanese, Shinto decrees that all their actions must imitate the way of the gods, who handle chopsticks thusly, arrange flowers thusly.
And there's also a special name for this type of flower arrangement.
Tea thusly.
I don't like tea, so what would that make
Worship
for
the
me?
emperor thusly. Enter a room thusly. Greet an acquaintance thusly.
Is there any like system as to who bows first or
Now, on
something?
the surface, Shinto seems to be a nice, quaint religion for a nice, quaint people. And in the olden days, it used to be just that. But today, there's a diabolical joker in Shintoism. For since about 1870, the state has forced
That's like shortly after the Meiji Restoration.
the teachings of Shinto a mad, fanatical doctrine. A doctrine that has brought suffering and death to untold millions of innocent Asiatics.
And here they're trying to take an approach. They're not trying to vilify Shinto itself. It's not like saying like this religion is evil. It's like saying some political fanatics have hijacked it like 70 years ago or something.
And now to thousands upon thousands of Americans.
About 2 minutes left. Technically, before I have to end this video.
This doctrine is based on the divine command that Jimmu, the first god emperor, was supposed to have given his people 2,600 years ago. Let us extend the capital and cover the 8 corners of the world under one roof.
This like flower design is a symbol that is used in certain Japanese contexts. I think my old Japanese passport contained this flower thing. Symbol
To
thing.
cover the 8 corners of the world under a Japanese roof. The Japs have a special name for Jimmu's divine command. It's called Hako Ichiu, and it has become the national ambition of Japan.
That's like the first time that word was actually spoken in this video after about 16 minutes.
Hako Ichiu, the Emperor of Japan, is the Emperor of all the races of the world.
Another minute.
There are no southern seas. All the oceans are to be recognized as the great Japanese sea.
And this quote is attributed to Dr. T. Komaki of Kyoto University, and it's supposed to have been said on February 22nd, 1942.
And in 1930, the modern American college-educated minister Matsuoka said,
To save humanity in conformity with the great spirit in which the Emperor Jimmu founded the empire, Japan should take over the management of Asia. extended to the rest of the world.
That is where I'll end this video because my hard cutoff of 35 minutes. Make sure to like and subscribe, and Dark Blade out.